Well, hello there, Planetman. Usually I'd only be posting if I was trying to make a montage that still ends up getting less than 300 views despite being posted on Reddit and Discord.
No, look at this one.
But today, I decided to make a different contribution to this highly niche video game. This will be an ASP perk tier list ranked from S to E. The hard truth is that some ASP perks are better than others. Getting just one ASP token is quite grindy, and you don't want to waste something that's hard to get. That's where this video comes in. I'm going to start off with the S tier since everyone wants to know what the best perks are. The first two perks in S tier are both obvious and arguably mandatory. The Heavy Weapon and Light Assault SMG secondary will both double your flexibility and firepower. An NC Heavy can team kill from afar with their saw, and up close with their jackhammer, and earn that bonus check. A TR can impress the brass by coming close to having enough DACA with their secondary chain gun. With their secondary Lasher and Papa Vanu's Blessing, a sweaty VS Heavy main can enjoy a successful career in industrial agriculture. If you main Light Assault and you're one of those players who run shotguns, your secondary SMG means you're no longer punished in gunfights outside 10 meters. Lucky you. The shotgun secondary for engineer is also pretty good and earns its spot on S tier. Aside from shotguns being a better option than the pistol, it adds greater flexibility for engineers that run the Archer. My only gripe is that this would replace your explosive crossbow that can do decent chip damage against heavy vehicles and scare off harassers and flashes. Moving down to A tier, we have the aircraft and combat armor discounts and AR primary for engineer. The aircraft and combat armor discounts of course only apply if you use said vehicles, but each of those vehicles are very expensive and making them cheaper never hurts. Ideally, you want to be good enough with these vehicles so that you won't die enough to need these discounts, but you never know when they might come in handy. I would have put this in S tier if the escalation update didn't come out with facility modules that make vehicles cheaper, but these discounts would make a good synergy anyway. Now the AR primary for engineer is a tad bit trickier. If you're on VS and TR, then this is a no-brainer since your ARs are better than your carbines. If you ask me though, for the NC, it's the other way around, due largely to the Bandit and GT7F. But there will be people who swear by the assault rifles anyway, so if you really love them that much, then you can pick this perk up. But for me, if this perk was good for all factions, then I would have put it in S tier. But it's not, so it's in A. For B tier, we have the LMG primary for engineers and the Medic carbine primary. LMGs typically only work for heavies because their lower DPS is compensated for by their overshield. Engineers lack the heavy overshield or the Medic's passive healing. If you insist on having this perk, you're gonna have to use an LMG with a high damage profile or rate of fire. The extra magazine size the LMGs offer can be welcome and offer a decent advantage, but it's just not enough to beat out the assault rifles or carbines they already have. That's why LMG primaries belong in B tier. It's just not good enough. Good, but not enough. The Carbine Medic primary is awesome for NC medics because they can finally have a competitive 167 damage gun in the form of the Bandit, or they could run the fearsome GT7F. For VS and TR players, this perk isn't as recommended because their ARs outperform their carbines, like I said earlier. But their carbines aren't bad by any means, so if you really swear by their carbines, you can put that on too. This perk is awesome and arguably mandatory for NC, but since I can't say the same for the VS and TR, it can't be any higher than B tier. For C tier, the middle of the pack, we have the Hard Light Barrier for heavies, Ground Transport Discount, Battle Rifle Medic Secondary, Sticky Nades for infiltrators, and Anti-Vehicle Nades for engineer. The Sunderer and Ant are fairly cheap as it is, and the facility modules make them even cheaper. But I'm willing to give some leeway for Battle Bus players or ants geared towards combat. The good news about Infiltrator Sticky Nades is that it's a fun meme playstyle. The bad news is that it's still just a meme playstyle. Engineer anti-vehicle nades can be a lethal surprise for larger vehicles that get close to you, especially if you run Grenade Bandolier. The problem is that Grenade Bandolier costs a lot of nanites that could be better spent on vehicles, and anti-vehicle nades replace the much more useful repair or sticky nades. The battle rifle as it stands is mediocre, even with the added flexibility that can be offered with underbarrel grenade launchers. It's cool if you feel like picking fights with snipers without having to keep yourself behind the front lines, and God bless you because fuck infiltrators. But without perfect aim, this is one of those rare instances where you'd be better off with a pistol. The slow draw time of battle rifle secondaries doesn't do you any favors in CQC either. I guess the extra cover for your heavy would be nice for point holds and static players in general, but it's not needed for a class that can solo entire groups of infantry while playing aggressively. There is also plenty of cover to hide behind anyway, so you shouldn't spend an ASP token just to give yourself more cover via the hardlight barriers. And by the way, they don't count towards the engineer draw fire directive. And now we're in D tier. These perks are extremely niche, but not niche enough to be completely useless. They are the light ground transport discount and EMP nades for engineers. EMP nade on engineer can make enemies easier to kill by dropping their abilities and shields, but the fact this can easily happen to you and your allies makes this perk more harmful than helpful. No matter how hard you try, you will fuck up an EMP nade throw at least once. We've all done it, and you will too. The light ground transport is only here instead of E tier because the harasser is 350 nanites now. However, that damn thing is still able to do tons of damage and escape any meaningful responses, so I'd be surprised if you find yourself actually needing your harassers to be cheaper. That probably means that you need to learn how to use it. The same would go for the flash, but the other issue is that the thing is basically free anyway. Now, last and certainly least, we have E tier, which consists of the flash nades for the infiltrator and heavy, concussion nades for the light assault and medic, sidearm primaries, universal smoke, and decoy grenades. All of these aren't just useless, they are downgrades. Why would you want a medic to run concussions instead of frags or revive grenades? Why would you give your heavy flashes when concussions work just fine and only cost a few hundred certs to unlock? Why should your infiltrators use flashbangs instead of an EMP? Why do you need smoke grenades for every class when it works just fine on a light assault who'd make the best use of them with their mobility? And why the hell are you using decoy grenades? I also shouldn't have to explain to you why replacing your primary with a pistol is a terrible idea. At the very least, if you're crazy enough to buy any of these, you're able to reassign your tokens when you inevitably regret buying them. Now, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and found it informative. These are, of course, just my opinions, so take them with however much of a grain of salt as you want. I also hope that my voice wasn't too horrible to listen to. I don't really have the recording voice that other YouTubers have, or high-end equipment, or editing skills. Anyway, take care, y'all.